Sitting in the New York airport, Max thought it was not the most enjoyable way to spend an evening. He observed the boarding process for what he hoped would be his flight back home to Charlotte. Max, along with his two sisters, owned a small pharmaceutical company their father had established decades earlier. His father had developed a series of valuable yet rarely used pills that kept the company profitable but offered limited growth. With his parents gone, Max had spent the past few days in New York negotiating the company's sale to a major pharmaceutical firm. Today, Max and his team of lawyers and brokers finalized the deal, leaving the paperwork to the attorneys. Max hoped to make it home tonight, but it seemed unlikely. The last flight to Charlotte for the day was fully booked, and he was third on the standby list. He refrained from calling his wife Camilla, unsure of what to tell her. He sat at the bar, keeping an eye on the gate, sipping his second gin and tonic, contemplating the deal and the substantial sum over $10 million that he and his sisters would share. This windfall, along with a well-compensated transition period with Big Pharma, promised a new lifestyle for him and Camilla. Their twin daughters were already away at college, juniors at Duke, where tuition costs were draining his finances. But all that would change once the pharmaceutical deal was finalized. Meanwhile, the boarding process concluded, and gate agents began ushering the last passengers onto the plane. Then, a stroke of luck. The status on the boarding sign changed, and Max noticed his name move up the standby list. He threw some cash on the bar, gave a thumbs up to the bartender, grabbed his briefcase and duffel bag, and dashed for the exit. At the gate, an agent handed him his boarding pass and quickly explained, "A group of 4 who checked in remotely didn't show up, so you and 2 others are getting their seats." Max hurried down the jet bridge with his newfound companions, and upon reaching his seat realized it was in first class. A good omen, he thought. I made the flight, I'm heading home a day early in first class. Maybe this means the pharmaceutical deal will indeed go through. As the boarding door closed and the plane taxied, he felt he deserved another drink. He had another gin and tonic and then dozed off, dreaming of a future where he and Camilla could always fly first class. The jolt of landing woke him. Eventually, he reached the taxi stand for the ride home. A few days earlier, he had driven his pickup truck to the airport, but now, exhausted and a little tipsy, it was too late to call Camilla to pick him up. They lived a few miles outside Charlotte, so the cab ride gave him enough time to nod off again. The driver had to wake him when they arrived. Max paid the fare generously, got out of the taxi a bit groggily, and as he turned toward the house, what he saw stopped him in his tracks and fully woke him up. A gold Mercedes parked in front of his side of the garage. It looked like a very stylish Mercedes, but then again, all Mercedes seemed stylish to him. The house had fallen into darkness. It was well past midnight, and Max stood motionless for several minutes. He had spoken to Camilla from his lawyer's office around noon, and she hadn't mentioned anything about unexpected visitors so late. Trying to push away unthinkable thoughts, he envisioned a happy scenario where he could soon curl up with a warm, sleepy Camilla. But his mind wouldn't cooperate. Slowly, he made his way through the passage between the garage and the house, unlocked the door, and entered the silent home. With deliberate steps, he moved through the kitchen and up the stairs to their bedroom, where the door stood ajar, seemingly unprepared for guests. Max stepped inside. Then it closed. There was no other way to describe it. His mind went blank. His breathing halted. Even his heart seemed to stop beating. He witnessed what he could only imagine as unthinkable. Camilla lay undressed, sprawled on her side of the bed, one arm wrapped around another man who slept beside her, a faint smile on his lips. Max stood there for what felt like an eternity. Eventually, his mind started to function again. He glanced at Camilla's hand resting on the man, and they both snored softly. This shattered Max's heart. Until tonight, he had found solace in listening to Camilla snore, a comforting sound that meant she felt secure in the peaceful sleep they shared. He often fell asleep to that gentle purr, but now that was all gone. He would never hear that snore again, never share a bed with her. Despite his broken heart, Max began to think rationally. He noticed the man's neatly folded clothes on a chair where Max had sat countless times. Anger simmered inside him. He pulled on his pants, retrieved his wallet and car keys, and paused to consider his next move. Thoughts of grabbing a tennis racket from the bedroom closet and confronting the man crossed his mind. He even contemplated confronting Camilla. Both impulses promised immediate satisfaction but threatened severe consequences. Another idea took shape in his mind. He pulled out his cell phone and started taking incriminating photos. As the plan developed, Max finished documenting the scene and gathered the man's clothes and shoes. The man was much larger than Max, taller and heavier. A tennis racket wouldn't be wise, even in the short term. With the clothes in hand, Max stole one last glance at his wife, his once beloved partner and mother of their daughters, and steeled himself against the love that had sustained him for over 2 decades. He left the bedroom, dry-eyed, and descended the stairs to the outside. The car's key fob beeped, and the doors of the Mercedes opened. Max stowed his briefcase and duffel bag inside before settling into the driver's seat. He had never been one for fancy cars, but as he maneuvered the Mercedes, he found himself appreciating it. After driving a mile, Max pulled over and examined the man's wallet. It contained the usual items: cash, business cards identifying him as Franklin Thompson, a senior sales manager at a local Mercedes dealership, and a driver's license with a Charlotte address. If the man had a family, Max realized he could cause significant trouble for him, and perhaps for Camilla too. But for now, exhausted, Max decided to head to the nearest motel to get some rest. Camilla Trondor was a highly cautious person. Aware of her husband Max's greater intelligence, she managed to sustain an affair with Franklin Thompson for nearly 5 months without Max suspecting a thing. Max is still in New York, she thought the next morning while lying in bed with Franklin. He satisfied her physically, though not quite as well as Max, she reflected. Too much like a car salesman, she mused, deciding it was time to end the affair. Franklin's growing possessiveness, including his desire to spend the night, had crossed a line. Despite Max's likely ignorance of the situation, having another man in their marital bed felt too disrespectful. She planned to call Franklin later that day and firmly but kindly end things, then headed for the shower. As she dressed back in the bedroom, Franklin emerged from the shower wrapped in a towel. He paused, then asked, "Camilla, where did my clothes go?" "What? I didn't move anything," she replied. "Where are you going tonight? I left them folded on this chair. They're gone. Did you take them to the guest room?" She began, but he hurried down the hall and returned empty-handed. "No, they're not there. They're nowhere." Camilla impatiently suggested, "Maybe you left them downstairs last night after we came in." "No, I'm sure I didn't, but I'll go check," Franklin said, leaving the room and quickly returning. Camilla, my car's gone too. Someone was here, took my clothes, and stole my car. Damn it, what's happening?" "What?" Camilla struggled to grasp the situation. How could his clothes and car vanish when they'd been home all night? Could someone have broken in? She sank onto the bed, and Franklin asked, "What's wrong?" Camilla tried to speak, her breath catching. "Franklin, what if it was Max?" she finally managed. "What if he came back from New York while we were asleep and took your things and your car?" "Damn," Franklin muttered, collapsing beside her. "We need to find out where he is. It could be him. But if he's still in New York, then it's a break-in. We have to call the police. I need my stuff and my car back. Oh, damn this car. If we involve the police, they'll ask whose car it is, and it's in my wife's name for some tax reason." His voice trailed off, imagining the potential fallout from bad to catastrophic. "I'll call his office. His secretary gets in very early, so she should know where he is." Camilla pulled out her phone and dialed Max's office number. Despite the early hour, Max's secretary answered promptly. "Max Trondor's office. How can I assist you?" "Hey, Sheila, it's Camilla. I know it's early and I'm not sure where Max is. He didn't call last night. Have you heard from him?" Camilla, it's still early here. The team in New York worked late yesterday, so they'll probably start late today. I spoke with Max around 6 yesterday evening before I left. He mentioned they were making good progress and might finalize a deal today," he said. "That's good to hear. So he's still in New York, right?" she asked. "Yes, I'm certain he is. I expect to hear from him once they're back at the lawyer's office. Should I have him call you?" he responded. "Yes, please, but only if he has a moment. I know how crucial this deal is," she replied. "Understood. Bye," he said, and they hung up. Camilla turned to Franklin. "Max is still in New York, so we should call emergency and report a break-in and car theft," she told him. "Camilla, what do we tell them? That your lover had his clothes stolen from your bedroom and his car stolen from your driveway? What the hell? This is a disaster," Franklin exclaimed. "Okay, I get it. Let's think this through. How about I drop you off at home and you report the thefts as happening there, while your wife was taking the kids to school? Maybe skip the stolen clothes. Those would be harder to explain than a missing car," she suggested. "Yeah, except yesterday I told my wife I was going to Atlanta for a meeting on the new Mercedes S-Class and wouldn't be home until noon," he said. "Okay, we can wait until noon when you're back. You drove home, left your keys in the car for a quick stop before going to the dealership, and your car was stolen while you were inside, she proposed. I think that could work. I could also say my wallet was in the car and got stolen. We can hang out here for a few hours, maybe take another shower. Together, Franklin said with a suggestive tone. Franklin? She responded, her tone serious. Okay. Yeah, I need to call work to take a sick day, he said, realizing the gravity of the situation. Camilla, who worked as a paralegal in a small law firm, found the job somewhat dull. She stepped into the hallway to make a call, and when she returned, she found Franklin back in bed. Tempted, she thought of Max and her recent decision to end the affair, ultimately deciding to decline. Franklin, she said, making no move to undress. I think it's time to end this. We've had our fun, but last night it could have been Max. We're fortunate it was just a burglar. Let's find some clothes and maybe grab breakfast somewhere. Franklin looked at her, briefly considered arguing, but ultimately realized she was right. They had been lucky, but shouldn't push their luck. Yes, he agreed inwardly, recalling with a slight smile another attractive middle-aged mother who often visited the car dealership. Okay, I agree, it's been good. So how about some clothes, he said. It proved more challenging than expected. Franklin was 50 pounds heavier and 4 inches taller than Max. Eventually, Camilla managed to find a pair of worn-out sweatpants that fit Franklin somewhat, fashioning makeshift adjustments with strings to hold them up. She also unearthed a faded sweatshirt, now tinged pink from a sloppy wash, which she further modified with trimmed sleeves and widened armholes. Despite wanting to make a remark about the outfit resembling clown attire, she only smiled faintly at Franklin's expression. They decided to pass the time watching TV until it was time to head to Franklin's house. Earlier that morning, around the time Franklin discovered his missing clothes and car, Max arrived at the address listed on Franklin's driver's license. It was a pleasant house with a small bicycle leaning against the garage wall. Max sat in his car, contemplating, wondering, still devoid of tears. His night at the motel had passed swiftly, and he hadn't gone for a run until dawn. Surprisingly, he didn't feel worse. Perhaps he was still in shock. He approached the front door, holding Franklin's wallet with the driver's license visible. He rang the bell, and a young woman in her 20s, attractive yet somewhat disheveled, answered. Max wore a suit purchased the previous day in New York, a now rumpled white shirt and no tie. Despite not looking his best, he hoped not to appear threatening. He held up Franklin's driver's license for her to see and gestured towards the gold Mercedes. Before he could speak, the woman slammed the door shut, then reopened it moments later with her cell phone in hand. I have emergency ready to dial. Tell me my husband is okay. Ma'am, I have a photo on my phone of your husband and my wife in bed last night, both undressed and fast asleep. Honestly, I don't think there's anything wrong with your husband or mine. If you want to call emergency, go ahead. I'll wait in the car. They stared at each other until her expression softened, and she opened the door, beginning to say something when a voice from the kitchen interrupted with, Mommy, wait here. I'll be right back, she said, turning towards what Max presumed was the kitchen. He heard voices, hers and at least one child's, before she returned with a cup of coffee for him. I hope you take it black. I need to get the kids ready for school and drop them off. Honestly, I trust you more than my husband right now. You can wait here until I get back and then we can talk. Sure, okay, Max replied. Seems we're both in a similar situation. He settled into the living room and soon the woman reappeared with 2 children, introducing him as Dad's friend before leaving with them. Max sat quietly, sipping on the mediocre coffee, contemplating calling his office, but ultimately remaining seated. When she returned, she hurried upstairs briefly and returned looking more composed, her hair brushed and lips lightly tinted. She extended her hand to Max. Sorry for the chaos earlier. I'm Molly Thompson, currently married to Franklin Thompson, who happens to be involved with your wife. Max couldn't help but chuckle at her phrasing, a brief moment of relief. You've summed up the situation perfectly. I'm Max Trondor, and my wife's name is Camilla Trondor. Let me explain what happened last night. As Max recounted the events, Molly began to cry. I'm filing for divorce from Camilla, and these photos will certainly help with the settlement. I can send them to your phone if you think you might need them. Yes, please keep them, Molly replied, her eyes dull. Max started to reach for his phone, but paused as Molly continued. Hold on. I don't want those images burned into my memory forever. You keep them, and if I ever need them, I'll call you, okay? Of course, Max agreed, adding, I probably won't be staying at my current job or home for much longer. Here's my lawyer's contact information. Feel free to reach out if you need the photos or any assistance with divorce proceedings. Thank you, Molly said, But what should we do now? Are you returning the car, waiting for Franklin to confront him? He's a big guy despite putting on some weight. Supposedly he was in Atlanta for a car meeting overnight and should be back this afternoon. You know, I'm rather fond of this car, and I've never driven a Mercedes before. I think I'll keep it until someone insists otherwise. As for your husband, let's just call him Idiot for now. He may have... Molly chuckled, and Max joined in, both needing the release. Actually, the car is registered in my name, Molly disclosed. For tax reasons. More depreciation, I think. Franklin, or should I say, Idiot, put it in my name since I use it more. She paused thoughtfully before continuing. Since it's my car, I can give you permission to drive it, and if you get stopped, the police can call me to verify. Max appreciated the plan but held back, sensing Molly was still refining it. And one more thing, she added. There have been a lot of burglaries in our neighborhood lately. You have Franklin's keys and clothes. If the spare key we hid in the backyard is missing when he arrives, he might attempt to break in. And if our security system is set to instant alert mode, he'll attract some unwanted police attention. Molly, I think I'm falling for you all over again. You're amazing. Okay, let's stay calm. Franklin can wait until this afternoon when the kids and I get home from school. I'll pick them up and take them to the park for a while. Let's give him more time to get into even more trouble. Whatever happens, keep me updated, especially if he gets into trouble with the police. And call me when you need to return the car. I don't want you getting into any trouble. We're good. Now, you need to get going. So do I. Max drove off in a splendid gold Mercedes, pondering how much the same model in a better color might cost. Molly handed him the permission slip, and he assumed she would retrieve the hidden key, set the alarm, and be gone for the rest of the day. Meanwhile, Camilla and Franklin arrived at his house around noon. She dropped him off hastily, as if avoiding an infection, and he approached his front door, hoping it might be unlocked because Molly was home, but also fearing her presence. It was, of course, locked. He hurried around to the backyard rock where they kept the spare key, only to find it missing. Oh, crap, he muttered, scanning the back of the house, considering breaking in. He attempted the back door, but it too was locked. Left with little choice, he contemplated breaking a window along the rear wall. Opting for the family room window due to its size, he broke off a branch from a tree for leverage. Barefoot, he needed a way to avoid the broken glass. Grabbing 2 chairs from the porch, he positioned them beneath the window, planning to climb over them carefully into the living room. Taking a few deep breaths, he prepared himself. Franklin tossed the branch through the family room window, which shattered satisfyingly, followed by the blaring of the home alarm system. A stroke of bad luck compounded by a passing police car. Earlier that morning, Molly had alerted the police about potential break-ins in the neighborhood. Damn it! Franklin cursed, scrambling over the chairs to enter the house and disable the security system. But he wasn't quick enough. Police, stop right there and slowly step away from the house. Hands up, an officer commanded. Franklin glanced back, seeing 2 officers with drawn pistols. He complied, managing to scrape his legs as he descended from the chairs and backed away. Officers, I can explain, he began, but one of them swiftly handcuffed him, ignoring his attempt to clarify. His rights were read aloud, and he was asked if he wanted to make a statement. Yes, this is my house, and I didn't have a key, so I broke in to get some clothes and call my office, Franklin explained. The officers eyed Franklin's tracksuit, perhaps thinking, clown clothes, and one asked for identification. No, not on me right now. You see, I lost my car and all my clothes, so I just needed to get inside to find some real clothes, Franklin continued. How did you lose your car, sir? One officer asked. Well, I stayed at a friend's place last night, and this morning the car, wasn't there? Franklin stammered. It just disappeared, huh? Have you reported it missing? Maybe you left it somewhere, the officer pressed. Franklin hesitated. He didn't want to reveal his whereabouts or why he hadn't reported the car missing, but going to jail for trying to enter his own home was also not appealing, especially with the uncomfortable handcuffs. Then an idea struck him. You could call my wife. She can confirm who I am, and maybe you could take me to my office. Someone there can help me get some clothes. Knowing dealing with dealership drama was preferable to jail, Franklin gave Molly's phone number to one of the officers who called her. Franklin could hear part of the conversation. Ma'am, this is Officer Riles from the Charlotte Police Department. We're at the address. He provided the location. We have a man here claiming to be your husband. He attempted to break into your house because he lost his clothes and... Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We will, of course, do that. Thank you, ma'am. the officer said. Turning back to Franklin, the officer said, "The lady says her husband is in Atlanta, and anyone breaking into her house must be a burglar. She hopes we throw you in jail and toss away the key." But, Franklin was nearly in tears as the officers escorted him to their patrol car to take him to the station. Meanwhile, Camilla arrived at her office half a day late, but determined to catch up. With thoughts of Max still on her mind, she tried calling his cell phone, but received no answer. She then dialed his office number again. "Hello, Sheila. It's Camilla again. I'm starting to get a little worried about Max, since I still haven't heard anything from him." "Have you heard anything?" Camilla asked. "No updates yet. He's likely still in New York with the lawyers, but it's unusual for him not to call. Since you're concerned, I'll check on him and get back to you shortly," Sheila replied. "All right. Thank you, Sheila. You're the best secretary ever," Camilla said. A few minutes later, Camilla received a call back. "Camilla, it's Sheila. I spoke with the secretary at the law office. Max left late yesterday, hoping to catch the last flight to Charlotte. I called him and he asked me to let you know he'll call you later," Sheila informed her. "Okay, thanks, Sheila. Thanks," Camilla said, a pit forming in her stomach. Meanwhile, Max drove a gold Mercedes to a divorce lawyer recommended by Fred Thomas, his longtime business lawyer. Trusting Fred's referral, he hoped for the best. "Mr. Trondor, please have a seat. Miss Reinhardt will be with you shortly," the secretary informed him. Max settled in, finding some comfort in the lawyer's office, neither extravagant nor cheap. Before worry could set in, a middle-aged woman with dyed red hair entered. "Mr. Trondor?" Max nodded as she introduced herself. "I'm Anna Reinhardt. Fred spoke highly of you, so let's discuss your situation in my office," she said. They moved to her office, where Max accepted coffee from the secretary and began his story, discovering his wife's infidelity, seeking a divorce, and protecting his assets, notably from his and his sister's company's sale. He omitted the Mercedes incident, unsure how Anna would react. "Max, may I call you that?" Anna asked. Max agreed, and she continued. "Here's some relatively good news given your circumstances. Fred mentioned your ownership of the company before marriage, making those shares separate property. Your wife has no claim on them or their proceeds. Keep them separate from any joint accounts. Understand?" "I believe so," Max replied. "What about our home, retirement accounts, and such?" "Well, it's less favorable there," Anna explained. "Given your higher income, expect child support for several years. We might mitigate contributions to retirement by adjusting alimony. It's not ideal, but it avoids future issues, especially splitting retirement funds. Your kids are college-bound, so no child support there. You okay with covering their college expenses?" "Yes, that works," Max confirmed. "What about the house?" "You and your wife need to decide. You can sell it and split the proceeds, or one of you can buy out the other based on its current appraised value," Anna responded. "After what I witnessed last night, I definitely don't want this house anymore. I doubt Camilla can afford to buy my share, so selling it seems like the best option," Max decided. "All right, I'll prepare the necessary paperwork accordingly. The divorce petition is fairly standard, so I can have it ready for you early tomorrow if you'd like. We can serve it to her tomorrow afternoon and propose a settlement next week," Anna said. "Wow, that's pretty quick. Max started. "Max, listen to me. If there's any chance for reconciliation, perhaps counseling or some time," Anna suggested. "No, it's just a shock right now. Less than 24 hours ago, I was happy, eager to share news of the company sale with my wife. Now I'm here discussing divorce, but we have to move forward. I'll figure out how to handle this, okay?" Max said, trying to steady himself. "If you change your mind, just give me a call and we can reassess," Anna offered. Max thanked her, settled the fee, and left the office. Walking back to the gold Mercedes, he wondered about the events with the man he saw last night. It reminded him he promised his secretary to call Camilla. Camilla answered in her law firm office. "Camilla, it's Max. You called and were looking for me?" Max said. "Oh, Max, thanks for calling. I missed you. Where are you?" Camilla asked. "I'm here in Charlotte," Max replied. "Max, when did you get back?" The pit in her stomach twisted. "Last night, Camilla, I got back last night," Max said. The pit grew heavier. Camilla leaned back, struggling to breathe, let alone speak. "Max, I think I should hang up," she said. "No, Camilla, please," Max said. "Can we meet somewhere? I need to see you just for a few minutes." Max hesitated. This woman was his love, the mother of his daughters, the most significant person in his life for over 20 years. "Okay, Camilla, Center Cafe at 6. The pain intensified. Camilla reluctantly agreed. The Center Cafe held sentimental value. They had first met there with friends long ago. Over time, it became their special place. Now she felt anxious. Max had suggested it, and she had to agree. "Max, I'll be there, and please understand. I'm sorry, and I love you," Camilla said, her voice breaking. Max hung up. Camilla sat, tears streaming, the pain deepening. Camilla arrived early at the cafe. Max hadn't arrived yet. She ordered a glass of wine and reflected on her self-perception. Her initial experiences were with robust football players in college. Although she had flirted in high school, it was the football players who had made her feel vulnerable, holding her down. When Max came into her life, she thought she had overcome those feelings. He was everything she needed: strong, loving, a great father, a good provider. That should have been enough, but on the flight back from the West Coast, everything changed. Max was on a business trip, pitching a new pill to a pharmaceutical company, and she had accompanied him for the weekend. Flying back alone on an overnight flight, she sat next to a burly man, the coach of a local NFL team. They chatted, drank too much, and she fell asleep with her head on his shoulder. She woke to find his hand between her legs, under her skirt. Now, reflecting on that night, she knew she should have screamed or pushed his hand away. But she didn't, and the guilt, the absence of it, troubled her. She only felt relief when Max returned later that week, and she had recovered physically and emotionally. The coach left after one season, but not before introducing her to a player from the practice squad. He wasn't a star, but like the coach, he was dominating in bed. She felt grateful when he was transferred elsewhere. Eventually, guilt surfaced, and she ended the affair, wanting to remain faithful to Max. She thought she had put her infidelity behind her by the time their daughters left for college. She cherished her renewed bond with Max during this period. Then, Max surprised her with a generous gift, a new luxury car of her choice. Unfortunately, she chose to visit the Mercedes dealership where she met Franklin Thompson. He didn't just sell her a car, he seduced her. She knew it was wrong, compounded by the fact that Franklin wasn't even good in bed. Despite her previous indiscretions, she believed her marriage was strong. Now, she loved Max more than ever and wanted to be faithful. It was the right thing. Allowing Franklin into their marital bed was a mistake, even before Max found out. Now, she feared the consequences she might have to face. "Hello, Camilla." Max's voice pulled Camilla's gaze up to see him standing there. He appeared visibly aged since his return from New York, a change she blamed herself for. The serpent in her gut continued to coil and bite. "Hi, Max. Thank you for being here. I don't even know where to begin to express how sorry I am." "Can I ask you a few questions?" he asked, taking a seat. "Oh, Max, please no. If we have any chance, questions and answers will only destroy that chance. Max, we should run away for a few days to a Caribbean island where we can reconnect, hold each other. Where... Camilla, please. You're not seeing clearly. If you can't answer my questions, I'll leave now." The snake continued to torment her, but Camilla knew she had to endure the pain and let Max express his anger however he needed. Perhaps, just perhaps, he could find a way through his rage to some form of reconciliation. "Okay, Max, ask me anything. Do you know what time I got home last night?" A peculiar question, she thought. No, not exactly. It had to be after..." She trailed off, knowing his next question already. "And do you know what I found when I got home, when I went upstairs to our bedroom? Or should I say what used to be our bedroom?" "Yes, Max. I know what you must have seen. And I know it must have been one of the worst things you've ever seen in your life. And I know it's entirely my fault that you saw this. And I'm begging you, please listen to me. Max, I'm sorry. So sorry that I won't fight the divorce you want. If you want..." "Shut up, Camilla. Next question. How many men have there been since we got married? If you lie..." "If I think you're lying, I'm leaving." Camilla's first instinct was to lie. Then she realized it was too risky. Finally, she concluded that the marriage was likely over anyway. "3, Max. 3 men, whom I now deeply regret ever meeting. I can see in your eyes that our marriage is over, and I understand. You deserve someone better than me. I'm willing to do almost anything to give us another chance, but I understand if you want nothing to do with me anymore. Call the lawyer, Camilla. Tomorrow you will be served with divorce papers." Max stood up and left. Camilla sat there, initially too stunned to cry. As she processed what Max had just said, the pain in her stomach intensified, and she began to cry. Max walked out of the cafe, reflecting on how he and Camilla had first met there decades ago. He wondered if this would be their last lovemaking conversation. Closeness, he thought bitterly, had become a curse. Hearing her confess to having lovemaking with other men and seeing her with Franklin in their bed, asleep, snoring. For God's sake, how would he ever get over this? Maybe he could handle knowing about 3 faceless men over their 20-odd years together, with some counseling and a lot of groveling on her part. Maybe, but he would never get over that scene in their bed. Their marriage was finished. Sitting in that damn gold Mercedes, he finally cried. As darkness fell, Max blew his nose, wiped his face, and remembered what Molly Thompson had said that morning, which now felt like a year ago. She had told him not to send her the pictures of her husband cheating, believing it would be harder to forgive with visual evidence. Max decided to call her, share this thought, and check on the situation with the Mercedes. "Hello?" Molly answered the call. "Molly, it's Max Trondor from this morning. Just checking in to see how you're doing and what to do with the car." "Max, thanks for calling. I'm managing. You can keep the car for now. Franklin is in so much trouble he won't need it for a while." "Trouble? I hope you didn't shoot him." "No, but he might have preferred that. He got arrested for trying to break into our house and took a swing at one of the cops. He's a big guy, and the cops shot him with a stun weapon. Then something happened while he was in jail. He doesn't want to talk about it, but I think he might have been attacked by another prisoner. I refused to speak to him, so he had to call his brother to post bail. Now his whole family knows what's going on." "Wow, Molly. I can't say I feel sorry for him, but I do feel sorry for you. I wanted to tell you that you made the right decision this morning not to look at the pictures of him cheating. If you have any chance of reconciliation, those photos would make it a lot harder." "Yeah. He came home a couple of hours ago, crying, apologizing, and begging me to let him stay. At least for now. We have 2 little kids, so I'm going to try to work things out. But life won't be easy for him. His own brother, a lawyer, told me to push for a prenuptial agreement and offered to help. Plus, I'll be managing our finances for a while. Franklin will be on a short leash, and I'll be tugging his collar often." "Stay strong, Molly. I wish you all the best. When you need to return the car, just call me." They hung up, and Max sat there, feeling a bit envious of Molly. Maybe Franklin had learned his lesson. Being arrested and charged with assaulting a police officer, combined with his experience in jail, might have frightened him significantly. Max hoped so, for Molly's and their children's sake. Finally, he drove back to the motel where he was staying. He had one more task before trying to sleep, calling his daughters, Jane and Joan. "Hi, Daddy." It seemed like Jane had answered. They were twins, not identical, but close enough. They sounded alike and attended the same expensive college, studying nursing. At least they didn't look exactly alike, similar and clearly sisters, but not obviously twins. Max often admitted to himself that he was glad they weren't identical. They were already skilled at ganging up on him, and it would be even harder if 2 identical young women were persuading him to buy a car, stay out late, or give them money for a spring break trip to Florida. "Daddy, please." But he also admitted, again only to himself, that he enjoyed spoiling them. "Janie?" "Yes?" "You guessed right. Of course, there was a 50 chance. What's up?" "Listen, tomorrow is Saturday, and I'd like to invite you and your sister for breakfast. Well, let's call it brunch, maybe around 11 or so at that bistro on 4th Street we used to go to." That works for me. Hold on a second." He heard some noise, and then she came back. "And Joan is good with it too. Can we—" He quickly interrupted her because at their last brunch, 6 or 7 of their friends had shown up. "Let's make it just the 3 of us, okay?" "Of course," Jane replied. "But tell me what—" Again, he cut her off, not wanting to have a difficult conversation over the phone, which was challenging even in person. "Listen, I have to go. See you at 11. Love you. And tell your sister I love her too. Bye." He hung up, hoping she wouldn't call Camilla, but knowing he couldn't tell her that. Otherwise, she would have called Camilla immediately. 11 o'clock tomorrow morning would come soon enough. After Max left the cafe, leaving Camilla with his warning or curse to hire a lawyer, her tears were uncontrollable. She knew she had ruined everything. Her marriage, her family, her entire life. She realized her daughters would find out. Her parents would know, and all her friends would learn about it. She would likely lose Max and her home. And poor Max. Seeing her in their bed undressed, probably with Franklin, who had an hardness, must have nearly eliminated him. Her tears continued to flow. Eventually, the waitress came over and asked if she needed to go to the ladies' room. Camilla choked back her sobs and managed to say, "No, thank you." She paid the bill and left, heading back to the house that would soon no longer be hers. When she got there, she found some gin, just the wrong amount, not enough to make her pass out, but too much to help her figure out how to get Max back. After drinking it all, she fell asleep, hoping for a miracle that would bring Max back to her. Max was sitting in the bistro at 11 o'clock the next morning when his daughters walked in. He had reviewed and approved the draft divorce petition early that morning, then drove 2 hours from Charlotte, using the drive to figure out how to break the news to Jane and Joan. Initially, everything seemed normal. Hugs and kisses. How was school? How was work? They ordered and ate their food, had their plates cleared, and then finally the real conversation began. "Dad, we know something is wrong," Joan started. "You look a bit unwell. Are you here to tell us you have cancer or something? And if so, where is Mom?" "Girls, I do have really bad news, but it's not physical. No one is dying. It's about Mom," Jane interrupted. "She did something terrible, didn't she? Oh my God, did she run off with one of her firm's lawyers? Some young, strong guy that Joni or I should be chasing?" Both girls burst out laughing, stunned by the absurdity, until they saw their father wasn't laughing. "Dad, no, not Mom, no!" Joan couldn't voice her fear aloud. "Girls, listen carefully. Yes, Mom cheated. She cheated on me, but that doesn't mean she cheated on you." Joan, crying, said, "Dad, if her cheating is destroying our family, then yes, she cheated on us just as much as she cheated on you." Both girls cried, and then Max started crying too. They stood up, trying to hug their dad and each other at the same time. "Dad, let's get out of here," Jane suggested. "There's a park about 2 blocks from here, and we'll have more privacy there." People were starting to stare, so Max quickly paid the bill, and they walked to the park, a daughter on each side of him, all holding on to each other. "Tell us, Dad," Jane said after they found a bench to share. "We deserve to know how bad it is." "She's right," Joan added. "We're mature enough to handle this." "On the way here, I was trying to figure out how to tell you," Max began. "I agree. You are both adults, and yes, your mother did cheat on all of us. I found her at home in our bed with another man, and she later admitted there had been others before him. I think I'm still in shock, but I know that she and I can't recover from this. I've already talked to a divorce lawyer, and Mom is getting a divorce petition today." They cried more and then fell silent, contemplating the news and their future. "Girls, no matter how bad it is, you need to prioritize yourselves and your schoolwork. There's enough money to cover your senior year at Duke, and if either of you wants to pursue graduate studies, I believe I can find funds for that too. But there's a condition." They looked at him, curious. "I'm willing to pay for your education, but I expect you to work hard and get good grades. Yes, what Mom did makes it hard to concentrate, but you told me you're adults. Real adults, mature, disciplined people, can handle such adversity, right?" They looked at each other, cried again, and hugged him. "Yes, Daddy, you are the best, and we won't let you down," Joan assured him while Jane looked pensive. "Dad, Joan is right. We won't let you down. But what about you? Will you be okay? What are you going to do?" "Well, you can think about a lot during a 2-hour drive. First, I want you both to know that what you said doesn't surprise me at all. I know you'll continue to do well in school, and I will continue to be proud of you. As for me, what your mother did slapped me hard. I could crawl into a hole, suffer, feel sorry for myself, and try to reconcile with your mom. But I realized that doesn't suit me. I've spent my entire adult life taking care of others. When I started working for my grandparents' company, I took care of them. After they left, I took care of my sisters, as they owned their shares in the company. Then I took care of your mother, and I took care of you girls. It might sound like I'm complaining, but I'm not. The company will soon be sold, which will relieve me of responsibility for my sisters. Camilla is gone. And you guys, I promise I'll be happy to help you start your adult lives. So what? 2 home runs out of 3 in terms of the women in my life? Not bad. That leaves me. And guess what? I see this whole situation with betrayal and divorce not as the worst thing, but as a chance to start a new life. A life dedicated to taking care of one person. Me. Fine, Dad, really. If you mean what you say, that's great, Joan said. Jane was more skeptical. Dad, what does all this really mean? New life? Working for another pharmaceutical company? Buying a farm? What? Good question. I do have an answer. No details yet, but this new life will be physical. I'm going to run marathons, climb mountains, swim across the Atlantic, climb the Alps, go on safari. I have a million things I'm going to do. And guess what? While doing these things, I might meet a nice woman doing the same activities. Who knows? Damn it, Dad, this is amazing. Both girls looked at him astonished. This was their father, not some enterprising adventurer. "Did you really come up with all this while driving here from Charlotte?" Jane asked. "Well, yes, partly. Besides, I didn't sleep much and different ideas were spinning in my head. I mean, I could start drinking and feeling sorry for myself, but instead I'm going to make the best of this mess. Trust me, I'll be fine." Max left his daughters with more hugs, kisses, and tears, then headed back to Charlotte in the gold Mercedes. As soon as Max left, the girls called their mother. "Hello?" A strained voice answered the phone at the Trondors' house. Joan put the call on speaker. "Mom, this is Joan and Jane. We just had breakfast with Dad, and he told us some terrible news." What did he say?" "Well, he mentioned divorce and said it was because of your betrayal. Dad gave us some details, but that's the gist. Is this true?" "Oh, girls, this is complicated. He and I have been married for a long time, and this mistake. Yes, I made a big mistake. Well, more than one, actually, but I'm sure we can get through it. I just need to give your father some time to—" "Mom," Joan interrupted, "listen. Dad said divorce. He didn't talk about fixing things. He talked about cheating." "Well, yes, technically he's right, but that doesn't mean we can't fix it. I told him I would do anything." "Mom," Jane interrupted, "I think you're delusional. He told us that he had already met with a divorce lawyer. He said there's no turning back for you two. Joan and I don't want to take sides. But you have to face reality." They heard tormented breathing on the other end. Joan and Jane exchanged glances, wondering if they should have gone to Charlotte. Finally, Camilla spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I know I screwed up and ruined my marriage. I think your father hates me, and he's right. I've done awful things. He told me to hire a lawyer, and he was right about that too. I'm sorry, girls. I know it's terrible for you too." "Mom, don't worry about us," Joan said. "We'll be fine. And I know Dad is doing everything he can. You need to take care of yourself. Hiring a lawyer is a good idea. Jane and I can come to Charlotte if you need us." "Thank you, girls. That's kind of you. I'll be okay. I just need time to come to terms with what I've done." They hung up, still unsure of their next steps. "You know," Joan said, "it's funny, though it's not really funny. We're more worried about Mom, who caused all this mess, than about Dad." They continued talking and eventually decided not to go home, allowing their parents to deal with the situation without their interference. Camilla sat in her home in Charlotte, a bit hungover from the gin she drank the night before and feeling very depressed. After talking to her daughters, she knew she had to get up, get dressed, and leave the house. Do something, she thought. Just as she considered buying more gin, the doorbell rang. Camilla opened the door to find a young woman standing there chewing gum. "Can I help you?" Camilla asked. "Yes, ma'am. Are you Camilla Trondor, Max Trondor's wife?" "Why, yes, that's me. Why do you ask?" "Ma'am, you have been served," the woman said, handing Camilla a folder with documents and taking photographs. What? Camilla asked as the woman walked back to her car. Camilla returned to the kitchen table to look at the mysterious folder. When she saw the title of the first document, she nearly fainted. It was a petition for divorce. She remembered Max's last words to her, "Get a lawyer." As she sat there staring at the familiar kitchen she had once enjoyed with Max, she knew the happy days wouldn't return after what she had done. Camilla was right. She and Max never reconciled after her betrayal. 6 years later, sitting in the ballroom of an expensive hotel and watching Jane dance with her new husband, Camilla mentally plunged into the past. When the girls were teenagers, life seemed terrible. Too many activities, too much teenage angst, and boys who were either too mean or, in Camilla's view, too nice to the girls. Max was too busy with his job, and her work as a lawyer was too boring. Life had been overwhelming then, but now she missed it terribly. She was still at the same law firm, doing the same mundane paperwork. "Camilla, here is your wine." Camilla looked at her date, a perfectly sweet, middle-aged, paunchy, balding lawyer who had escorted her to Jane's wedding and reception. "The bride looks lovely, just like her mother." "Thank you, Carl. You're sweet, and thanks for the wine." He was a kind man, and she could imagine marrying him if he was interested. But he definitely wasn't Max. She couldn't help but glance across the room at Max. Max had just returned from a mountaineering trip to Nepal, and Camilla thought he looked like one of those bronze Greek god statues. Tanned, incredibly fit, even more handsome than she remembered. He was smiling and laughing with Joan and her boyfriend, holding hands with a woman as beautiful and fit as he was. Joan had told her that Max met the woman on another mountaineering trip in South America, and they had been traveling, sailing, and climbing together for several months. Camilla felt sick just thinking about it. "Camilla," Carl tried to get her attention. "Yes, Carl?" "Camilla, I think we should leave. You've fulfilled your duties as mother of the bride, and staying here drooling over your ex-husband isn't doing you any favors. And I dare say it's not very good for our relationship either." "Carl, you're sweet, and you're absolutely right. Let me go say goodbye to my daughters, and we'll leave." Camilla hugged and kissed her daughters, wished the newlyweds all the best, and as hard as it was, ignored Max and his stunning girlfriend. Max noticed Camilla leaving and felt a slight pang of sadness for their old times together. As he watched her, Joan asked him a question. "Sorry, Joni. What were you saying?" "Daddy, remember that strange-looking gold Mercedes you were driving when you, Jane, and I had breakfast that morning when you visited us at Duke? What happened to that car?" "Ah, Joni, that's a whole story I won't bore you with. Let's just say I borrowed that weird gold Mercedes from a friend and ended up giving it back to her. I think she sold it. It was truly an unlucky car." And Max turned to his friend to discuss their next mountain trip.